Greetings from Gail. I'm so glad to have you here today looking at this fall card. We're not going to put the whole card together, but what I want to show you is the technique that I used on the leaves in order to get two tones on a single leaf without stamping it twice or cutting anything out. Since fall leaves appear in a variety of colors, it's nice to mix those colors this way. So we'll talk about that technique in just a minute, but I wanted to show you that the sentiments on this are fall is in the air, are from the October Stamp of the Month from Close to My Heart, and it is called Autumn Air. There's some wonderful sentiments there about fall, and it's fun to send out greetings this time of the year, especially if you just want to catch up with someone and see how they're doing and hope that they're staying nice and warm. It's getting cold here right now, so that's kind of fun. I've also on this card used some of the embellishing thread, gold, to wrap around there to give it a little bit of dimension. And I used an embossing folder on the back of it. But right now we're going to start talking about these leaves. And what I want to show you is that those leaves come from this stamp set, and this is the Hawthorne Scrapbooking stamp set. And that's got those three great sized leaves, as well as some other great sentiments designed for scrapbooking, but they work for cards as well. Particularly these leaves can just be used in a variety of ways. I've even just stamped leaves and cut them out and put them down on the table as part of the centerpiece, which is really kind of fun to do. So what I've done is I've taken those three leaves and I've put them on blocks. Now, because this technique is called rock and roll, meaning that you stamp with one color, you're using two colors for each of these leaves, you stamp in one and then you kind of roll and rock your ink onto the stamp again at the edges. Well, if it's going to go on the edges, your stamp needs to be on a block that's similar in size. This is the smallest block that I had that would fit this larger leaf, but you'll notice that these leaves, this one, I'm not really good at knowing what the leaves are, and I think this is an oak leaf, that they are really tight on the block, which is great. It gives us that flexibility to rock it and roll it around the edge of the ink pad as we put that second layer on there. So let's take a look at how this is done. I'm going to move this out of the way so I don't get any ink on it as we work on this project. I'm just going to show this on regular cardstock, and we'll just be stamping some samples here. As I said, you're going to use two inks for each of the leaves, and you always start with the lightest ink. So to begin with, I am going to try to duplicate this leaf right here that is using saffron and sage inks. And I'm going to use the saffron first, because it's not going to matter if I get some saffron ink inside of the sage pad, but if I got some sage into the saffron, that could not be a good situation for me. So let's start by inking up this nice big maple leaf on the saffron pad. This is where I love the magnetic closure ink pads from Close to My Heart, because now I can just move that out of the way, open up my sage. Now, what I'm going to do is, you can see that there is saffron ink on this, and I want to add the green to it. So what I'm going to do is just try to get the edges in. So you can see, if I get that up there, I'm just going to start tipping the edges, tapping it around, kind of rolling it a little bit and getting the edges covered. You can see here, can't really see the green, but it is there. There's a little bit of color that you can notice. But I want to get some in the center, and I'm just going to kind of roll it through real quick. Not tap it hard, but just kind of roll it through to get a little bit of a hint of that color in the center, and get a little bit more as I roll around the edges there. Then I'm going to come over here. I'm going to put a little bit of a pad underneath in order to get a good impression on this. And I'm just going to stamp it down. And there you can see that I've got multiple colors on my leaf. Okay, before I try to use this stamp again, I've definitely got to clean it. It's got 2 colors on it, so I'm going to use the new Close to My Heart Stamp Chamois. It's wet, and it just cleans the ink directly off that with no difficulty. Let me set that one aside. Let's play with a different stamp. Let's use this. I think this is the oak leaf. So for the oak leaf down here, I used Gold Rush and Paprika. So let's get those 2 inks out here. And we will, again, the lighter of these 2 is the Gold Rush. So we're going to start with it. And I'm going to ink it up. Bring this over. And you can see that I've got that covered in the Gold Rush. Now, let's get the Paprika. And again, I am going to just do the edges, kind of tap it around the edges here, and rock it across just to get some of that color in the center. And now I'm going to come over here, and there's my creation. It's really fun to work with. I want to show you what this is going to look like with a little change up in it. Okay, let me clean this so that I don't get any of that paprika into the Gold Rush. And again, for this technique, I'm just going to use a regular piece of cardstock, nothing different. And I am going to ink up again in the Gold Rush and ink again with the paprika, just touching the edges. If I can see if I can get this up here so you can see that I am literally tipping this, and the whole stamp is not, it's easier to do it off to the side here, but I'm keeping a lot of the stamp off of the ink pad and just catching the edges of it there, and then rolling it across just to get a little bit of color into the center. But I want to see if I can blend out the colors a little bit more. And so in order to do that, I am going to mist it lightly with some water. This is just a little water pen. And I'm going to hold this and just, my pen is not far away, and just spritz it lightly with water and then put it down. And if you can see a little bit of how that water has worked there. And now you can see the difference between these two. The one on the right that I have the water on, the colors have kind of blended in together with one another a little bit more. I'm not worried about catching those edges because I'm going to be cutting these out anyway to use on my project. So that's another thing that you can do if you want your colors to kind of just blend in together a little bit more. I've got one more that I want to try with you. Let me clean this stamp up first. Set that aside, and we'll use this. I think it's an aspen leaf, and we are going to use the eggplant as the dark color, and I think we'll go back to the saffron for this one again. Saffron and eggplant together I think will work really well. So let's start with the saffron. And now I'm going to pull the eggplant over here and ink the edges. Just tap those edges all the way around. Get my hand out of the way so you can see what I'm doing here. And then kind of rock it across the pad to get some color into the center of it. And I hope you can see that. And I did get a little more color into the middle, I think, than before. So let's see how this one goes down. I love the bright colors with that. And let's try this one also with spritzing it. So I've cleaned it up. Come back here to the eggplant, to the saffron first, and then back to eggplant, and get those edges and roll it across, rock it across there, close it up, and my spritz pen is right here. We're going to just spritz it lightly and stamp it down. Again, you can see the water there, getting that together. And there's the two of them. You can see a little bit of a difference between them, the way the colors have worked together on this. So I'm just going to cut those out, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to put together my card. And I think there'll be lots of different uses you can have for this. Have fun!